They're just junk cars. It's just a commercial junkyard. We don't need another one. We have one.
And part of the reason I'm sensitive to this is because I had to come before the board. Because no good deed goes unpunished in my house. I was trying to help out my cousin's kids. And they were living in my basement. They were going to be there 6 months while they built their house out in wherever. And he has a landscaping business. Well, it turns out that the 6 months that he was going to be there turned into 2 years. So I had a family of 4 in my basement, rent-free, because I'm trying to be the good guy helping them out, for 2 years. And then it turns out, and Keith and I have the 20 acres, it turns out that more and more of his business ends up being in my yard. And he's using my barn. And I'm embarrassed as a neighbor to think, holy cow, what am I going to do? I got a family problem. Get your house built, I'll give you more money, finish, take your trucks. Because literally, all the green and greener stuff that was never approved of by me living there. I can't get my own family out for 2 years. How am I going to take out a guy who I suddenly say, oh my gosh, the commercial rules, who's the guy that's going to fix that? This is a mess, this is louder than they said, blah, blah, blah. Well, suddenly, once it's there, all of the promises from before that we sat around and listened to and hoped for cost us legal fees. Get this to take care of, get that to take care of. And when we come to these meetings, we just say, look, we got enough problems. We do need to clean up the junkyard in some way before we drop dead. But we feel like we have to fight against an invitation to something that, when you say commercial and that there are rules, who knows who to go to? Who knows who to call? When is it going to be expensive because we got to get lawyers involved? How are we going to stop this? And God forbid, there's an accident. And we who sat here are going to the funeral of a kid, as lovely as those rules, big trucks coming in and out, big neighborhood, tons of kids. How can we live with ourselves to say, I allowed this to happen with the fear that my friends with their kids might be harmed? That's the fear. Now maybe it could never happen and that would be lovely. But my experience, unfortunately, getting old, is that all the promises, even the things that were written down, don't make it worse, let's make it better. And your hope, I get this. It's a mess, I'm going to clean it up, I'm going to make it wonderful. Those trucks are going to, what a blessing people are going to say, I'm so glad I moved to Daniel because I got to be closer to the berm and the trucks. Not happening. We need to figure out how to clean up and make our community even better. And I don't see this particular business commercially in that spot makes my life and the lives of all my neighbors better. I just don't see it. But what do I know? I'm a songwriter.
Hey, Eric, just to be clear, I'm not in the movie. The junkyard is on private property, that's not commercial, right?
No, it's already fine.
The junkyard is this property that they're trying to rezone.
But if you water the junk and it grows, it's legal.
It grows whether you water it or not.
I don't
But
know.
it's legal to be there.
No, it's not.
So, but it's just
That
there
determination has
because-
not been made.
It's just there because no one seems to do anything about
It
it.
was
It's just
there
there because
before
nobody
we
will
was a
make it
town.
move.
See, that's what he's saying, it's like, there's nobody really knows, so it just stays there. Because
Yeah.
nobody really knows. Okay.
Yeah,
Which is
it
a
was there
shame.
prior to us being a
Which-
town.
And
Like he said, I
it's
heard his
not
dad
grandfather,
also.
unless you say
But
it's not.
doesn't the town have the power to condemn it?
Because they're not sure it's not grandfathered, even though she said it's not grandfathered.
Well, it's
No,
not
the Junk is
grandfathered.
never
That's
grandfathered.
beside the
Well,
point.
well, the business, it's a legal mess. And I can't give you legal opinion. I can
Yeah,
sit
you
in a
can.
room with 2 attorneys and they can.
It's
Yeah.
just legal mess, it's just a legal mess,
It is.
and we don't want to go there again.
It is a legal mess. As are many uses in the town. We're an old town, we've been doing things a long time, so. All right, so we're at this point. Is there any other comment? Is the planning commission ready to make a motion?
What kind of emotion are you looking for?
Well, we need to set it for a public hearing, so you'll have to send it to the town council to set a public hearing. And you can make that with a recommendation for or against if you want, or if you want to wait till after the public hearing to make a recommendation. That's typically what we've done, is hold the public hearing and then we have a recommendation going forward from there. But we need a motion to send it to the council for a joint public hearing.
I make a motion to send it to the council.
Okay, I have a motion to send it to the council for the public hearing. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call for the vote. Let's go roll call. Okay, 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 okay. Okay, will you let the minutes reflect that roll call vote on that?
Where will that be held?
That will be held in this room.
Really?
It will. It will. And so we'll send that to the council and then we'll put together the notices. Once that date's set, you guys want to meet on a planning commission or town council night? Any preference?
I prefer Wednesday.
Wednesday? Okay. All right. We'll give the council an extra day. Super. Okay, so we'll set the date. The town council will set the date, we'll send out the notices, and then we'll figure out when that's gonna be, when we can accommodate. We have to check with the county on the route. So, we're here to guess. Excellent.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you all for coming. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Highway 40 property, zone change. Are we,
Still kind of waiting to see what happened with the
okay,
neighboring zone change.
okay, is that a motion to continue?
So I'd like to continue.
Okay, I have a motion to continue, is there a second? I have a second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed on the continue?
I'm opposed.
Okay,
Opposed to continuing? Opposed to continuing. How long can we continue this?
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing, or did you call for
How long
discussion?
can we continue this?
yeah, but we didn't vote, you want to discuss it, we can still
Oh,
discuss
okay.
it.
Well, because he's waiting to see what we do with the other zoning. So,
So they can have a truck traffic go through all the
Yeah.
way through, just like I told you.
so it'll depend on what happens with that one.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I still oppose.
Okay, was there any public comment on that one? Everybody okay? Same thing, okay. All right, that takes us to item number 4. Annexation of existing parcels along the boundaries, continued from our March planning meeting. So we continued that, brought it back up to the council, they sent it to you. It's on your agenda. So these are the parcels along the airport, between Heber City and the town of Daniel. So we'll get a map out here and take a look at this, so you guys can see. This parcel one probably shows better than anything else I got. What we have is when the county built the town, they took a pin and drew straight down beyond the airport. And so what happened was we split parcels.
Down Airport Road?
So what happened was, Erickson Pease, Coleman Pease, you can see this field is one. So this line is the town of Daniel, this is county, this is Heber City.
Eric, can you show me on this map?
Yes. So this is Heber City now, they've annexed it here, but these parcels come all the way. This is in Daniel. This property line goes clear to here. This is the same parcel, Erickson Pease goes clear to that.
Okay.
So this person's property
Same
is
thing
half
over
in the
here on
county and
Coleman
half.
Park.
The front part's in Daniel, this part's in Daniel, this part's in the county.
That's the property.
So what was this?
They left that in the county, they drew a line when they made the town that says you guys will have to work it out in the future.
So they did, and now
Here we
they
are.
are.
All the way.
So here we are. So Heber City is annexed this piece in.
This piece.
Yes, it is in development. So what we're looking at is closing in that gap between Heber City and the town of Daniel.
And what's the advantage of doing that?
Charleston.
The advantage of closing it in is that half the property is in Daniel and half is in the county. The city can't annex that property unless they annex an entire parcel. The parcels are already in Daniel property.
So we want to stand on, give it up?
No,
So this is.
they want to take it out.
That's Heber.
The owners haven't said.
That's
They had their chance when we went to the county. So half of it's in, like I said, half of the county, half of the county.
Because there's nothing, it's not that easy.
Okay, oh, okay. That's okay. You're away from the
Because
noise.
they're inherit this.
No, I'm only doing the noise. Unfortunately, they're around 3,000, and our house is that we're grandfathered, so, you know, we don't, we built the house on the same, so it's only a 2 acre.
That's the
We own
road.
20 acres next to us. So I'm stuck, well, but I'm stuck on 3,000.
This is the road Heber City, said they'll never go away.
And no one can think, even the trucks and stuff, those trucks with the gas on it.
So that's animal control.
I think it's just.
Thank you, guys.
And not here.
Right on.
But, it's nice, it's a nice, and then when you start thinking, to me,
Really?
I'll never get used to it. So that's just me, when I'm in a hotel room, I
Hey, Rob.
usually ask for the room away from the highway or the.
Yeah.
But now they've rebuilt it.
Noise.
Well, see this one now.
What did you mean by
Here, it
something
goes
you
all the way
could do
around
something about that?
and back up. Well, actually, it comes down
We
to
can do
here.
that because.
It came
we'd have to
across
kill
up
someone
here
with
before they
20.
went through the runway and through
That's
and
what
down,
I
but now
own,
this
the
one
house.
comes here and then this is where the road comes up and
Who is this
No,
here?
yeah, yeah. No, but I'm saying, unfortunately, I hate being that close to the road.
That's where they want to use all
Yes.
79, 79. You can still hear it at night.
Yeah, exactly.
What do we get, like 3,000 tankers a
They
day?
Oh,
They get their taxes either way.
Yeah. You know, that's, no, I can have the tankers all night long.
But we,
Sell it off.
oh no, it's still these properties, it's still Harrison's property. He still owns
This is my
it. They just
husband.
split the parcel when they built the town.
So,
They
but it
didn't
makes-
use the property
It's a shame that I
back.
have to turn
They
this
just
fan
drew a
on.
line
Even though I
down
have
that.
beautiful overhead fans. I keep a little stupid fan on, just for the noise.
Is there a reason?
The only reason not to do it, it would be, as we can see, like I said, Heber City's come in and now they've annexed this one. That's
So
all
we're
they
thinking
are.
if we get this one,
Can we
big
get
time,
everybody back?
this is a big time.
What's that?
Yeah, we get everybody back.
I was just asking, since as far as
Yeah.
wildlife, are your pets all safe up there?
No, that's in Heber City.
Yeah, I just always wondered.
So Eric, the town council sent this back. The town council sent this to you.
It was actually underneath the runway, I'm just waiting for that runway to
Yeah,
come.
I was just
mean?
curious.
Oh,
My
it's
body,
right here.
we lived this for
The
a long time.
annexation
My biggest concern was my
The
cat.
annexation issue, they sent it back to you to make the recommendation
Since last month.
since last month.
What do they
So
want?
we continued it, it was on the agenda.
No, that's not true.
What do you mean that's not true?
It didn't get voted to be continued. The motion failed last month.
Oh, that's right, we didn't do the full vote on it.
That's cool.
So it just, so there it is, they sent it back to you.
Okay, so who over the town council wants this to go forward?
I don't know, apparently more than 3.
So what are they looking for from us, like recommendation?
Recommendation,
Cool.
if you look at the zoning map, you'll see all that is included in the industrial zone.
Okay.
And so, this one right here is I-2 industrial in Heber City's map, I believe.
So do these properties also have split zoning?
Some of them do have split zoning.
It's between the airport and
Some of those do have split zoning. So you can see along this corridor that this one right here was the last zone change that they just did in this little square.
There's a
And
runway.
that,
And this is a piece of
C2,
That's
which,
from the
which
airport
allows for the
to
highest
where
density
Lane
in the
is
city.
now. That
Is it C2 or I2?
And then
Oh, it's C2.
we want
No, I can't tell.
Bring
I think it's I2.
It's I2?
It's I2. Because all this is
Because they can put in a
industrial.
big metal stamping.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Hear the ground vibrate on it.
Yep.
Well, I think what's being proposed right now is
Heber will take it.
high-rise apartment.
So it's either
And
Daniels
an I2.
gets it, it's the revenue.
It's outside the flight path. If you're in an industrial zone,
They or.
So how are they gonna move the,
who cares?
how are they gonna move the runway over if they do that?
What's that?
How are they gonna move the runway over?
I don't know.
Can they establish residential in an industrial zone? I do.
I've often thought we should try to zone this for.
But I didn't think you could do residential with
Well,
industrial.
it's
By density residential, well,
Yeah.
it's not zoned.
It is allowed.
Like a window or something.
What would it be zoned if we annexed?
Well, zoning's a separate issue. We need to get it in the town before we can look at the zoning. So the county's the one that drew the line, and then they put that industrial zone down there. And their exact words was, you guys can figure that out.
How many property owners are involved?
At least 3,
Are they even aware that we're considering this?
5, I see.
I'm sure not.
Okay.
Shouldn't we make them aware?
We will.
If we go ahead with that.
No, I mean, shouldn't we make them aware that we're considering it?
Well,
It
here's,
is in fact their property.
yes, but here's the problem you got. So you got Heber City that wants to annex, and the state law says you can't annex unless you annex the entire property.
Okay.
So
But that really doesn't affect us.
It
Yeah, it
does
does.
affect us. Half
If
of
they
their
want to
parcels
annex
are
that,
in,
they'll take the whole parcel.
Well, okay,
half of these parcels are in the town of Daniel proper.
okay.
So that's the problem. That line was not drawn on the property the way, if we annex, we're under the same obligation. We have to go to the property. When they make a town, they're not. They can draw a line wherever they want.
So what you're saying could happen is, this property owner can say, I want to annex into Heber City, they can annex 30 here. Then they can de-annex this from Daniel.
They could disconnect, or they could sell.
A portion of it.
And Rick, are you saying that right now the property owner pays taxes to the county graciously pays half of that back to Daniel?
No, the county taxes remain the same. City taxes are additional on top of that. So your county taxes always stays the same in the county.
Oh, no, I'm just saying that you said half and half, so if the property owner has a property, half of it.
Oh, it's advantageous for whoever, but I think.
So
the
half of
property
it
owner
is
should be
built
the
just
one
at the
that's-
county rate. The other half has the Daniel added
Okay,
onto it.
This,
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
county right
so
now.
This is
does he have to
industrial.
take two separate entities?
It's zoned
Or it's one thing and
It's
then
one
it's
tax,
split?
it's just broke out all of them.
And you're sure the accounting's done properly?
this is
No,
all
I'm not sure of
industrial.
that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This person's property is half already.
So like here's Stones,
Or
here's
industrial.
Coleman Trucking.
Commercial for some big drill rig.
Isn't that probably right next to the airport?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and we've had talk about that, but the first thing is to get it in the town.
Yeah,
Or they'll put on whatever they want if it goes somewhere else.
so is it a fight between Daniel and?
It's not, this has just been brought, the council thinks it's time to bring it to the forefront and figure out where the boundaries are gonna be. So,
Nice talking to you.
Hey, when were you gonna get the number 7?
yeah. Yeah. Apparently you won't be here for that. I'm sorry.
Guys?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the council sent it to you for recommendation to move, same thing, we'll be setting a public hearing, we'll be sending out notices, same thing what we just did.
That's when
I did bring this up to the council that in an EPIC report from the planning commission, let me get a date here for you. In 2014, the planning commission, the northern sections of lot 1 and 2, or 2 and 3, so this is a 3-farm subdivision, and this is the report, are partially located in industrial zone. We recommend that the planning commission request the town council to initiate the rezone process in order to zone both lots as RA5 only. So back in 14, we saw this problem coming, and we just haven't done anything. Here we are 4 years later.
Well, I think it's best that the town of Daniel annex for control. If we were to let Heber City do that, then we might find a high density right next to our RA5.
Yes.
Now, I'm sure that the property owners want to be involved in this, and they might want to be able to say, my property is more valuable if I can get high density to it. So therefore, I'm in favor of having Heber City take this over.
Could be.
I'm just
So
telling
they'll be
you.
notified, come to
Yeah.
public.
Yeah, but I think it's in the town's best interest to try and get the control that we need, if possible.
To regulation.
So what kind of
control,
motion are you looking for?
regulation. There you go.
What kind of motion are we looking for on this?
So we're looking to set a public hearing and move forward with the annexation of these properties along the boundaries between Heber City.
Okay,
And because all we're doing is making that recommendation to the town council. They want a recommendation from you before they do anything to move on it. I'm not saying they'll follow our recommendation. They may not, but they've asked you to do it, and that's what the law requires under the annexation. It comes to the planning commission. It doesn't say what you have to say, it just says it has to come. So that's why they sent it to you. Okay, any other questions for me? Can I help anybody on that? I think it's pretty apparent. I was thinking we might be able to meet with Heber City Planning and maybe do just a agreement of where the line would be. But because it's in the county, it's not annexed. So we have to annex it before, just like we did at Charleston. We let them annex and then we drew the line, boundary agreement.
Eric, before we make a motion to send it, I'd like to make a different motion, and I may be the only one on the commission that feels this way. But I make a motion that before we send a recommendation to the town council, that we notify these property owners that this is in question on their property.
Okay. I have a motion. Is there a second on the motion? You second that motion? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
I think that we should recommend that they go ahead and look at this, but also recommend that they notify the property owners before they start, rather than planning getting this started, because we don't know that the town council is even going to go ahead with it. So I would rather
so combine the motion.
combine.
I don't want to combine the motion. I only want to bring the property owners up to speed with that town of Daniel is looking at their property to make possible changes. Not that there's going to be changes made, but to let them know that they are being considered in this regard. That's all my motion is. Now, if somebody else wants to make a different motion, that's up to you. But all I want to do is let the property owners know that they're being looked at. That's all I want to do.
Okay?
And this is discussion, isn't it?
Yes, still discussion.
And they do get notified of that before anybody tries to take their property, tries to do anything with it. Eventually they do. So what we're talking about is a time element. And I just think that we should stick to the process, to send it to the council, then having the public hearing, notify those people about it, and they show up then. To me, it's a time saver.
Well, it probably is, but at the same time, I don't know that it would have helped tonight, but some were a little upset that they're talking about moving driveways and things before they were
Without being
contacted.
told.
And that gets them on the defensive side, and that pretty much ends things. So, but I still think we kind of have to recommend that the council contacts them rather, if they plan to go on ahead with it, because I don't think we should start anything up if the council decides they don't want to do it.
Okay. Any more discussion on the motion? Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor. Call for the ayes.
Which motion are we talking?
His motion. He only made one
You
motion.
seconded it.
Oh, okay, I thought there was one started, but.
No, we only have one motion at a time.
Okay.
So we got a motion and a second. Your second still stand? Okay, so all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion fails. Okay, looking for an alternative motion or more discussion?
Okay, I'll try one. I move that we recommend to the council that they look at setting a public hearing for annexing an incorporated area between Heber City and Daniel. But that before any public hearing is set, that the property owners are notified that that discussion's taking place and the council obtains their feedback.
Okay. Have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we're motioning to recommend to the council for the annexation
With with notice going prior to the property owners,
Before they schedule the public.
before the public hearing.
Property owners before the hearing. Okay.
Public hearing.
Does that sound right?
Okay.
And the second still stands?
Second stand.
Okay. Any more discussion on that motion?
I'd just say if it is part of the motion that the property owners are notified in advance, I can support that.
Okay, any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote, all in favor? That's everybody. Wow,
Once in a while.
guess there's no nays in that one. Okay, Ryan, is that how you see that going, that same?
I can support that.
Okay. All right. That takes us to the planning report, huh? I had a bunch of papers ready to go, I thought we was gonna do Okay, so here's the planning report. This is the same one I give to the council, so.
Thank you.
I don't know whether they should build it.
You know, it's the same one.
I'll try to exercise again.
Oh, Nebraska's.
So that's what's going on in the town of Daniel. As far as administratively, and the, well, there's some things there that you guys have done too, with the residential permits also. While you're looking over that, Mick Kohler came and addressed the council about countywide putting together a garbage ordinance or some kind of regulations with the trucks losing all the garbage on 3000 South. So he went to the county and tried to get them to pass something, and they sent him to all of the municipalities to get their feedback. And so he came, we supported him in that. I did send him a copy of our ordinance, which was what the county had, but they changed their ordinances. And so RF, under 452, I'll just read it to you. Trucks, loads causing litter. No person shall drive or move any truck or other vehicle unless such vehicle's load is covered, tied down, enclosed, or secured, so as to prevent any load, contents, or litter from being blown or deposited on any street or alley or other public place. Okay, so the county's looking at rewriting a code. I think we should just put that one back in, but that's, they took that out when they rewrote all the codes.
So I think they should just charge an extra $10 if the load's not tied down, put that into a fund that they do clean up.
Good.
And that's what, they have also looked at that too. They're looking at that too. The problem, the deputies came out, and they said they actually have to see it blow off the truck before they can write a ticket. That they have to witness it. So they won't issue a ticket unless they see it.
That's what I'm saying, if it comes in and it's not covered, charge extra and then twice a year, because right now if we go out and pick it up and haul it down there, then we have to pay for it to.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 times that's true. On the 10th time though, they buy it. I've made them.
Well, then you pick it up every day.
So that's very
This
true.
last windstorm put some garbage out there and I don't know where it went.
I lost a shed.
It was a-
One of those steel frame tarp 12
I
by
lost the
20s.
steel roofing off of one of mine and it, of course, hit my, Jimmy and broke the windshield.
Oh, of course.
You know,
Mine went to the
took the
neighbors.
paint off the hood.
I'd love to see if it rolled or flew.
I saw mine go.
You don't want to see it.
7 sheets of steel roofing right over the horses' heads.
Yes, yes.
And then
Whoa.
2 of them were in the pine tree behind the house up about 30 feet.
Jeez.
For a while, luckily they came down.
You just stayed out of the way, I hope.
Okay, is there any questions on
Take that thing off.
on anything here?
Yeah, I've got one, Eric.
Yes,
I just wanted to address it to Ryan if I could.
you bet.
The 3 farm subdivision, all 3 residents, have they put their 1 share of annual water? All 3 of them? No.
2 of the 3 have.
Which one has not?
Karen Brady.
And is that the house that's furthest east?
Yes.
Because they are hooked up to the water. They are hooked up.
Good to know.
So do we need to shut them off?
No, it's okay, because we catch that at the CO.
They don't have a certificate of occupancy
Oh,
yet,
okay.
so we'll,
You can build it, but you can't live there.
okay, so are they paying a monthly bill?
I believe so.
So, I see the Neff building permit was issued, were they really 34 feet 11 inches?
They issued a number of revisions between when it was last year and when we issued it. There is a flat spot on the roof, so it was like we talked about, it comes up and then, you know, somebody took the helicopter to the top of it. This is how they're gonna do that, so that they have the look and then they still
So
have
you
a
can see
flat
beside
spot.
it.
So, they are really 34, 10, I mean, it's still 35 feet.
So,
That's fine.
But to answer your question, on the math you were doing, you're right. If you get to the right cross-section, it comes up and then goes flat for about 10 feet.
so what if they build that thing and it ends up being 35-1? What does the town do? No CO?
Yeah.
You're not in compliance?
You can build it to
And
plan.
that's why on the plans, it was not only, yes, but not only was that noted, there was a special note on the review letter that said that we're holding you to, you know, no, you're right on the edge, we're gonna check.
That was the point.
Okay.
And the answer is,
Interesting.
I mean, the answer, that flat spot they have, they'll just adjust that when they get there.
is how I would do it, but I don't know what they'll do.
It seems like you could just put an elevation on the plan and build to that, and you might, I don't know.
I've worked for builders and we've gone out and we've had to survey them, and it's come down to the ridge cap, how thick the shingle was. And I mean, we were plus or minus a tenth on whether or not we were in.
Interesting.
And on one, they cut the sheeting back, so they put the sheeting up to the ridge line and then put the cap on.
Mhm.
And we pulled the cap off and they cut the sheeting back and then they put the ridge cap back on, and that was the difference between being okay and not being okay.
It's gotta be smidge.
So hopefully they
Cutting
check
the
it
line,
before
aren't
they
they?
go to that final
Well,
step.
I'm hoping that we don't
Yeah.
quibble over this much, but I think it's worth it to quibble over this much, or, well, if it's
Yeah.
10 feet, that's 5.
Well, the problem I have is that you're right, I don't wanna make a, you know, multi-million-dollar deal over a quarter inch, but at the same time, we drew a line, and 35 feet's 35 feet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, 35 feet and 1/8, well, I don't know that my measurement's that accurate, so
Right.
maybe we don't make a big deal.
What if it's 36 feet?
But 36 is not 35, and if we let 36 go, then the next one's 37, and pretty soon,
Just like that man said, it just keeps snowballing.
so I agree, I don't know that I would support the whole go cut the 3/4 inch plywood off and put the cap back on, and then it'll be okay.
That's just ludicrous.
That seems a little ridiculous to me. At the same time, they know going into this that
Right,
they have
and I
less
think
than
it's
an
good
inch
that
play.
we told them going into it.
And so they've been warned multiple times, and I don't see the need to be overly sympathetic.
Tell me, are they looking for the city culinary water, or are they looking at a well?
They have been permitted, the assumption, they are in the process of drilling a well. So that's how they got their permit, is they've gone through all the steps necessary to drill a well. They would like to talk to us about connecting to city water in lieu of that.
How far does the line go down that road?
It's about 950 feet to get all the way to the far end of their property.
The existing
So
line's
it
only
doesn't go
about
right
40
to-
feet.
No, it's not short, it goes to pages.
There's a hydrant. I think it's about 40.
Yeah, well, so I just went from the hydrant and measured down. I assume there's a little bit of pipe after that, but I don't know, so when I say 950 feet, I'm assuming going from the fire hydrant.
And that's the very end of the property, so
Yeah.
they might have another 300 feet, they don't have to do it.
Yeah, if we don't wanna go all the way to the end, I think we'd wanna go all the way to the south end.
And then that ties in with the other homeowners to the south of that.
Yeah, so if we extend that, there's the potential to someday pick up more than just that one house. So there's reasons to extend it all the way to the south.
Of course, you get down past that, and the other side of the road's Charleston, so.
Yes.
Which we may be back looking at servicing outside the town.
got the big bus, yes.
I would rather service the house than drive it.
Yes, and I think there's 4 or 5 lots along there already approved. Along stuff over, so we'll be looking.
Through 4 or 5 lots approved that are like land, or a lot of record,
Yeah,
not necessarily they're, okay.
And they're in Charleston?
they're in
Buildable
Charleston.
lots.
So,
They was in the county and then they annexed that clear to South River.
can I make an editorial comment for tonight?
Absolutely.
When we do public comments, we really ought to give them a time limit of 5 minutes or 10 minutes,
2.
or 2 minutes or something, rather than,
That's up to this
20.
board, that's up to this board.
Okay.
You guys can set that,
So do we set that at the beginning of the meeting?
yes, you'd want to set that at the beginning.
Okay, so we make that motion at the beginning of the meeting and say, make a motion, we limit comments to 2 minutes.
I'll set my alarm.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, you can set that to whatever you need.
Okay.
I mean, you hate to cut somebody off if they got a lot of
If they're
information.
making a good point.
Yeah. It's hard when they go back and forth.
Well, yeah.
And I know they think that's rude when they wait, stop,
No,
but
that's your job.
that's what I do.
That's your job. Somebody has to.
So, okay. Another thing on that, as long as you're talking about that one, we did send that out to have Ryan out to bid on that water line. So we're getting it out to bid for that section of line along there.
I'm trying to get some contractors' estimates. I prepared an engineer's estimate, and the council was, it seemed like they were on the fence over, splitting hairs, and I said, well, it's an engineer's estimate, not a bid, so if if we think it's close on the price, about do it or don't do it, then before we get too carried away, let's go get a contractor's number and find out where we are. In the bidding climate we're at, prices are all over the place, and so engineers' estimates are, I can say this, engineers' estimates aren't worth the paper they're written on right now. I wish they were.
What was your estimate?
80-something, 85,000?
87, I believe.
87?
How many hydrants?
3. So Eric did the math, it's like 100, were we over $100 a foot? $80 a foot?
87.
Approaching $100 a foot, which I would have said last year is ridiculous. This year, I'm not really inclined to go a whole lot lower.
So you've requested bids for this and they've come in a lot higher than your estimates?
No, I'm in the process of putting together a design package so that I can do the review process. So as a city, it's a lot harder. I can't draw a line on a piece of paper and say, see it, give me a number. I have a whole thing I've got to follow, so I'm putting that together to get that out to bid.
I see.
Which is,
You're just having a hard time getting some firm numbers for materials and
so
stuff like that?
numbers on materials I have, it's the numbers on the labor. And I call somebody who just lost a job and doesn't know what they're going to do tomorrow, and I get a set of numbers. I say, okay, good, thank you. And then I call a guy who won the job, and he gives me a set of numbers, and it's just a very wide range right now. And with everybody being busy, I don't know what we could get it done for. And so the thought process was, instead of let's making decisions off of engineers' estimates that have this wide margin of error, let's get some bids and find out who it would, who the best bid is and who would do the work and what their number is. And then we can make much better decisions.
Okay.
Eric, I do have one question on your list. Hobbs nightly rental inquiries,
Yes.
is it VRBOs in town? Is it Airbnbs? Did the inquiry go anywhere? Is
The
it,
inquiry went nowhere.
okay.
Because what happened was, and I can dig that out, our code says that to rent out nightly rental, you have to abandon the house. The legislature in the session before this last year said that you cannot use advertisement on the internet as your what do they call it?
Evidence.
Evidence. Okay, so we have an ad on the internet, we can't use that as evidence. So there's no way to tell if they were doing nightly rentals. But our code states that you have to abandon the residence. And according to everything we know, there's a housekeeper on site. So Eric said in his legal term, which Eric's not a lawyer, that they haven't abandoned it. So the council's getting further legal
Okay,
from a legal person.
okay, thanks.
which is a good idea. So if that's the case, if there is a housekeeper, and yet they are doing this, what's it called if it's not a nightly rental?
You have to abandon it to fit our description. So the owners have to abandon the house, and it has to be rented for less than 30 days. And if that clause says a housekeeper, if they work for the owner, or it might be the owner, it's not a nightly rental.
Okay, my question is, what is it?
It's, near as I can tell from what David Church said, there's no difference between them doing that and you inviting your cousin over to stay.
Well, the difference is the money.
Making pay for dinner.
I don't know who your cousin is, but.
Okay.
Invite them over, you might as well.
So I think that's why they're looking for a legal opinion on what.
So, just to stretch this out just a little bit further, why was that put into our code, or our ordinance, whatever it is, to say that it has to be?
That definition,
Yes.
because whoever wrote the code thought it was a good idea when they wrote it.
Because there didn't used to be VRBOs and Airbnbs, and it looked like it was a good idea.
Is that something that could be changed?
Absolutely.
Is it something
It's
that
easy to
should?
change codes, you just did that.
Yeah, we had a good time with that.
And I heard it got tabled.
It did.
We did, that's what I was thinking, we just did it, we did.
So what does that mean, that it
You
got
almost did.
tabled? That we're gonna go back to the original code and enforce all of the illegal businesses?
Okay, 1 second. Did I answer your question on that? Okay, moving on to the next one.
What does it mean when a code that we've rewritten gets tabled?
It's tabled, that means there's no action taken on it. And so we're still under the original code that we have.
Okay.
We just can't get there for some reason. I don't know what to do with it, but we just can't get there.
So we're gonna enforce the original code?
Until the council says different, we're doing what we're doing, so.
Okay.
So the original code is the code we're operating under now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
But somebody can ask to have it be put back on the agenda and brought back up, I guess,
If they
a
don't
council
value their
member.
life.
It'd have to be a council member that did it.
I think this planning commission could really recommend it be brought back out.
Are we crazy?
Well,
No.
a little bit.
Not today.
Where's your ball peen hammer?
They even tabled the deck code.
I think this is a good time to bring this up because we're on record
Okay.
and we're in discussion. But like
Last
Nate
week, too.
Horton, he just told us that he has a agricultural business and it's an RA5, but he does not live there.
Yeah,
So he is out of compliance.
he is.
Yep.
By his own admission.
He is on record saying that.
Yes, he is.
Now, who's the lucky person that gets to throw him off the property?
That would be me if the council sends me that way. But I guess I probably should tell you this. There'll be 2 attorneys representing Nate very shortly in our meetings.
In our meetings?
Yes.
For what purpose?
I believe he's looking at some changes on his property. He's hired a law firm to represent him, and we received notice, so.
And I guess we may as well discuss a little further while we're on record. You heard tonight business owners saying that they have no place to go, so they want to come to our town. And that's exactly why we were trying to get this code, was to keep this town in a conformity state to our general plan.
Mhm.
So how
And we
does-
do have, and we always have had corridors for commercial work, and most of them are in an enterprise zone. But you yourself know it's tough to get property in a commercial zone. Now, it would be very easy for someone to commercial zone the property on 189 and 3000 South, adjacent to 189. Now, And it makes sense because of the neighbors, or not the neighbors, the other people on, the other owners of boundaries next to yours. And then John Blotter had mentioned, well, how do you stop that from coming west? Well, that's exactly what you're facing over on 40 now. But there are places that it does make sense. And I think that everybody, you know, would come to some concession with that. This property that we're looking at now, and this is now just my opinion, and we haven't had a lot of the facts or discussions, but it doesn't have the potential of being commercial property like that piece that's west or over by 189, that triangle.
Which parcel are you talking about?
The Wyant property,
The what?
Wyant property.
Wentz? or
One
what?
Okay, I know that one, the other one you're referring to.
Oh, is the Armstrong.
Oh, okay, not referring to what we're annexing.
It's just a personal comment.
So my comment or thought tonight, and I had a hard time not going on a rant on this one, is when we were discussing all of the commercial area in the residential zone, none of those people were there except maybe Phil. And now they're all saying, we can't have commercial in the residential zone, we can't. So now it's like, okay, we don't, and I'm not saying that this is the right place or anything, in this property we talked about tonight, but by not having commercial areas, that's what we're doing, pushing commercial into the residential zone, because people don't have a choice. So it's gonna be interesting as we have the public hearing, but I was getting a little impatient tonight just because it's like, yeah, what do we do? So, I mean, Rob could do like a lot of other people did and just move his well rigs into his place down there. He's got plenty of room. And I think it's good he's applying and trying to do it the right way. So, yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Am I not cutting you short?
No, I'm done.
One thing that I've noticed about what the piece of property that Rob Armstrong's talking about is it's been deemed unbuildable because of its size. And basically, it sits there the way it is because of it's unusable. That's all it can be used for, really. Somebody could put some farm animals on there in a field, but I guess that's, my point is the reason it's still the way it is because it can't be used as a residential piece of property the way it's zoned. And I'm not saying that the right thing to do is to change it to commercial because of that. I'm just making that as a point is why that piece of property is set stagnant the way it is partially.
Okay, but if I took my place, and, you know, before we had this, and I decided that I was just gonna peel off that front acre and a half, and then I'd have those 5 acres in the back, and I give the front acre and a half to my kid, and then I keep the back 5, and then later I'm like, oh wait, I've only got 4 and a half, I can't build on this, I think I'll make it commercial, which is what Shirley did. That property belongs to the house that Jesse has. By rights, that piece should be a 5-acre piece. Jesse should be sitting on one with 4 sitting behind him with nothing to do with it.
Except that's all that Jesse paid for.
Well, but Shirley had already peeled that off. That
Yeah, I
already
know, but
wasn't
I'm just saying.
Jesse's. But it belonged to the house. And
Yeah.
at that point, when it was subdivided and pulled away from the house, if we'd been a town, that would not have been accepted.
Right.
So that's
And
why
there's a
that
whole
piece
bunch of
is
other
staying.
things that are the same way.
Yeah.
But
But it's
it's
still
gonna be
not
interesting
right
to see what
to
happens.
put because I was looking at that list of things that are acceptable in commercial properties, and it's not right to put that in there with all those, I mean, you look at that, they talk about it's in the corridor, the whole piece isn't in the corridor. The corridor is only an arbitrary designation, and there are homes there. They're gonna put that in Tricia Steiner's backyard, they're gonna put it in Stephanie's backyard, they're putting it in Jesse's backyard, and they've sweetened the pot for Jesse. Look, Jesse, we'll square you up. You have to. So Jesse's singing a different
And
tune.
at the same point, they're gonna make Stephanie's property worth about 5 times what it is now. And I know you don't wanna move, but I'm just saying, there are effects that happen where you move that into the town in the residential areas and you're lowering everybody's property value, so what effect does that have? So I don't know, it's gonna be, like I said, public hearing's gonna be interesting.
It is.
Yeah, but
It is.
don't we as a zoning and planning board, don't we have an obligation to try and keep this as simple as possible? Keep commercial as simple as possible in the right, I mean, to me, it makes sense that you have commercial along 189 and Highway 40, but it doesn't make sense to me that we start having islands and peninsulas and commercial, you know, try to make those borders simple. And
It would be nice.
well, that's kind of what we do.
Well, and you're talking about putting that commercial access right onto Mill Road. There's a bunch of kids there. So then you've got commercial vehicles and customers and.
And if we wouldn't
coming
let
in.
Heber build the subdivision on the other side of the street, we wouldn't have those kids there.
That's why they're there.
It wasn't our property.
I
We
know,
can't- If we
couldn't
can't.
But
control
now
it.
you're saying what Heber's done is now controlling what Daniels.
Right,
And
exactly.
how does that work?
And I'll add one more comment.
But
But yeah.
I don't know if anybody noticed it, but I think that what he mentioned tonight is absolutely a valid point, is that Daniel is full of people who are doing a lot of things commercially on their 5-acre lots. And he said one of the main reasons why they do that is because you can't find property.
I don't accept that.
As
I don't-
big.
No, you
I don't
can
accept
find the
that.
property, it's just too expensive.
Not with 5 acres minimum requirement.
Well, then what do we do? Do we just say, all right, our town, sorry, our
That's-
town's the only place where you can come and get 5 acres and put up whatever building, business you wanna
You get
put in,
bonus.
and you can't tell me no.
That's where the
because
hard spot
I
is.
need it. And so I'm gonna build, so everybody's 5 acres is gonna have some sort of commercial business on it. You now no longer live in a community, you live in a business district.
I-
You live in the industrial.
I
zone.
don't disagree with that. I just think that requiring the 5 acres is kind of what's driving a lot of this. Now, whether that's a good thing or whether that's a bad thing, I think he made a valid point. That everywhere else, if you drop down to whatever size, Gary says, well, we'll just make them 8 acres or whatever it is that he says, and then we'll have nothing but subdivisions and
Heber Meadows.
communities.
I've
That's-
lived that way.
That's part, well, so did I. And people have made the comment, well, the reason why we moved to Daniels is da-da-da-da. I agree with that. This is a really tricky thing. I don't think we can discount the idea that because we're requiring 5 acres, that that's not a factor in people coming out here looking for this specifically. And I agree with your point, that they do come out here and look for it specifically.
So I think we all have some thinking to do before the public hearing comes.
Exactly. And
So it'll be
we have
interesting.
some long-range thinking to do about where do we go with our town into the future? Is the 5-acre thing something that we should think about, or at least consider, even if we do say, no, it's not a big enough factor, and we rule it out?
Well, Tom, we're kind of forced into that right now.
That's correct.
Because of sewer systems.
You ready to bond for a sewer system?
Well,
Pay how much?
I mean,
for the next
if we
50
go to
years?
put in a.
Robin Pearson suggested that, and we all threw him out. And they threw him out in Charleston too, when he wanted to do the same thing in Charleston. You know?
What's wrong with us, with Daniel being unique, that we live here because
We
we
already
want
are.
space? We want agriculture. I don't want to live by a commercial area. I'm a registered nurse, my husband's a ski coach, we can afford a 5-acre lot. Now, do we have big bills? Sure, but it's a dream. Can't we make Daniel unique and have it be a dream, green grass?
The way we do that is getting right back to where we started with this ordinance that was just tabled, and that is it's all dependent upon enforcement. Yes, we can. It's gonna take a lot of enforcement to do.
Well, when the
maybe that's what we need to do.
valley population doubles every 10 years, I don't think you're gonna see Daniel sitting there all by itself. I mean, it's gonna get tumbled upon. And if we don't have some of this regulation and things written in stone.
All that regulation did was made it more liberal. It didn't help us enforce what's there.
That's true. But
So I'm not sad that it was tabled.
All I know is Central Park in New York City is Central Park. It wouldn't be if somebody wouldn't have designated that that's going to be a park, period.
Yep.
And when you have the growth in population that we see in this valley, man, have we got to work that out.
Exactly.
And
That's
I can tell you,
exactly
I
right.
can tell you this right now, we don't need any commercial. I don't mind driving 4 blocks to go to Walmart. I don't need a 7-Eleven down on 3007 Daniel Road.
Me neither.
He's got his own Coke machine in his house probably.
And the same thing applies there, Kim, as what was discussed earlier in the meeting. That's great as long as you're alive. When the next guy gets your property, what's he gonna say?
Well, right now, I've got
Matter to me.
subdivision encroaching my backyard. When I built my house, there was nothing but foxes and open fields and reindeer running around. Now I've got a subdivision that's encroaching my backyard. I've got 10 acres of property for sale, close to $1 million. Who's gonna buy $1 million property, 10 acres? Some developer. How long is he gonna sit on it? As long as it takes. Now, what's my next move? I guess I move over on Little Sweden next to the mountain.
For that, or you can have to buy the 10 acres.
Yeah.
That's the only way you
I'm
can.
looking for a partner.
And then you get Dean Sellers to come visit you.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
You guys are in real, I mean, I'd hate to be in your shoes, because just like you said, you guys have an obligation and you have massive due diligence to do. You have to go into this public hearing pretty, I think, level to hear both sides. If you make up your mind, where I have a feeling some of you may be making up your mind already, and you can't do that. If you're already making your mind up before the issues come to you, you should be off the board. And that's my personal opinion, because these people, when you go to public hearing, you need to hear both sides and then be willing to see what's happened. You know, listen to both sides. But remember, public clamor is nothing. You can't give it to them for public clamor.
That's a good point. Come to
So
think
just
about
to
it.
remind you, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, you
I
need
agree.
to
That's
be
why we have some
very
thinking to
obligated,
do
yeah.
Before the public hearing.
You do, but you have to be very open-minded with your thinking of, you know, not coming prepared of, I'm not doing this. I've talked to the neighbors, we're not doing this,
Good.
you know.
Good.
So, I'm glad it's you, not me.
And we really hit everything, except for we probably haven't talked about the property rights. So clearly that owner has property rights also that has to figure into that whole conversation also. So there's a lot to do.
Elaborate a little bit on what you mean, property
I thought you
rights.
were gonna say we haven't done the minutes. but-
Property rights, if you own property, you have rights on that
That'll be
property.
fine.
If that's something that's in our code, and that's something he wants to do, you have the same reason that she has a farm, that's her dream, he may have different dream for his property. And those property rights, that's what we're up against.
What
Those
about the property owner's dream in regards to, or how it impacts with the zoning requirements for that property?
I think we hit that on everything, even in the same zone, you have different uses across the fence that impact the neighbor.
You know what bugged me? They picked all the smiley, happy uses of a commercial property. Look, these are the things we could do in a commercial property. So I opened the list and read all the other ones that they didn't put, you know, we can put a stinky this and a smelly that, and it's like, I don't like being
And see, and that's exactly why when I said open the page and pick one when I was doing mine. Pick one, they're all allowed.
They're there, this is all that could
If
happen.
there's something on this list that shouldn't be, we need to take it off, because all these are allowed.
Yeah.
If there's something there that we don't want in the commercial zone, we need to get it off that list.
It's like they just put the little,
Didn't we
the little
do that?
smiley ones.
What?
Didn't we do that?
Didn't we?
Take some of those off?
Yes, we did that once already.
Yep.
Yeah. We have to do it again?
No,
Jay just opened the book.
I read them. But the applicant just had the little smiley, these are the happy things. And I thought, yeah, you're blowing smoke.
Yep.
I don't like that.
You don't like the smoke?
Don't like the smoke.
Wait till you get to the next one.
As I said, because the
Not
other
to
side
pick on
was
the
blowing
engineer, it
smoke
was the
too.
engineer doing that.
Because they
Yeah,
had,
there was a
yeah,
bunch of smoke.
yeah, I was gonna say, because they said they wasn't in this, but everybody was notified of all, there was public hearings, there was all that. So them sitting there blowing their smoke saying they wasn't notified of any of this, there was, and they just didn't bother to come out. So they can't sit there and pretend, they was blowing just as much
Did they
smoke as them.
know, it wasn't noticed like a public hearing, which will be good because the public hearing has
No.
a noticing.
We're
This,
talking about the enterprise.
The enterprise zone.
oh, the enterprise.
It was
Oh,
done,
okay.
and,
I don't
and
know.
that's what I mean,
No,
she's,
we
you know,
heard
so
the same
everybody's,
speech a few
yeah.
years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, just, yeah, generically, a lot of, I mean, they had their points, but there was a lot of,
repeat,
but both sides were
yes.
using what they
There's a
wanted
lot
out
of
of the
hearsay.
facts.
Yes.
That's right.
And it's good, I mean, that's what we're here for, we hear everything, so that's what, and you just gotta kind of go through there and pick out the things that are relevant. Some things aren't, and some aren't. So that's why you're on the commission, so. All right, I think that's everything we got, right?
Once
Is
we're doing this, that means it's not relevant.
there anything else that we had?
I know